Oh, there she is, Bill.
There she is. And that's Greenbrae. Willie Wilson, fireman Willie Wilson, made that sign with great pride. We couldn't even afford the money to buy a sign to put over the station. So it says Larkspur Fire Station 2. It doesn't say Greenbrae or anything like that. Now I think it's what, 16? The countywide numbers system.
Countywide numbers, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
station 16, yeah.
And we were all by ourselves. So, as I say, it was well done. It was designed for like one. When I went to work out there as a captain, I was the only guy there. So, and that was my rig, 200 gallons, one live line, 15-minute Scott, and I thought I could conquer the world. So,
Yeah.
yeah. That was how it was in those days. It was, yeah. I mean, you don't even think about it. You just did it.
Well, let me ask you this, Bill. We're talking about the buildup of Greenbrae. When you moved into that station as a firefighter, was the Bonner Shopping Center up and running yet, or what was there?
It was running. It ended at the end of the building, which is probably close to where the museum is, was a Chinese restaurant.
Okay.
And they shut that down, and then they had about 2 or 3 phases moving towards, which is now almost across the street from the station. But when it first was built, there was only a big grocery store and a drugstore.
Yeah.
Not much. It was very much.
Now, on the other side was going towards San Quentin prison, going towards the highway. Was the Greenbrae bowling alley built yet when you were there?
The Greenbrae bowling alley was built because I was at the grand opening when they cut the ribbon. Probably 65, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. And in the protection down there was for the residents, and the commercial was you and the squad.
Right, that was it.
And then the volunteers backed you up?
Mostly, yeah, it would be down. Yeah, same thing. Come by your station. And we had no way to tell you first.
Right.
Infield, we got a working fire. You would have beat our second due engine from Larkspur by 30 minutes probably.
Yeah.
But the system was that way. No one thought or even considered the system we had at the time. It was the system.
Right.
You just did it. Before that, 5 years earlier, there was nobody but a fire chief was paid, and all the rest were volunteers, both stations.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we were making moves. As the buildings like Bon Air and Greenbrae, as they were building up, and San Anselmo and Fairfax and San Rafael, everybody else was growing the bottle. Everyone had to drop in new stations.
Sure.
Stations, and with that came more personnel. And slowly the paid staff got developed. The volunteers kind of slid backwards, which not backwards in a sense, but their need was not as demanding now that we had paid staff in stations. So
sure.
That's how that came about.
Do you have more pictures of the Greenbrae station being built?
Let's see the next one. I'm afraid to mention her name.
Look at that. The old International, Bill.
Yeah, that's it. And that's when we were going big time. Before that was probably the first engine out there. We had an old 250-gallon minute squad out there that replaced the original squad that you see behind me. Mm-hmm. Again, there was the one thing that saved us out there is volunteer sleepers. Volunteer sleepers had to work a minimum one shift a month. And if they were in station, keep in mind it's open dawn. If they were in station and we got a call, they had to respond.
Sure.
So most of the time at night, we always had at least one more guy, 2 guys. But I can recall going to calls with that Jimmy, with 3 of us in the front seat, one guy shifting, one guy steering, looking out the window. So, but it served the community quite well for its cost and the donation that the Shields Foundation gave the city.
Sure.
Next picture.
Oh, look at that. That's you can see, Bill. There's the back of the fire station, and it does look like maybe there's some construction going on there at the Bon Air Shopping Center, huh?
Yeah, it looks like that. There's now it's all houses in front of you. There's all buildings. The Chevron stations there.
Yep.
From one end to the other is solid construction today. But we were out there by ourselves, and the street was the address was 15 South Alicio.
Yes.
People first put a master plan together. So it was run from Sir Francis Drake around the creek to Bon Air. But I think after a while they got to thinking that would be a shortcut for people going out to the freeway. So they put a gate at the end of South Alicio at Bon Air Hill, and you couldn't drive through. You could get a key like we had and get out there. But they didn't want that to be an alternate to Sir Francis Drake. And it turned out okay working that way. So they changed that street now that's in front of the station to 15 Berry Way. Holland Berry was our volunteer firefighter, but he was also our city manager. He was a good man. So they left the city. They named the street Berry Way. That's how that got its name. From he was born and raised in Larkspur, went to Cal, became a acting interim city manager, and then was permanent, and then the city. But that's now 15 Berry Way, not South Alicio.
And you mentioned the South Alicio piece brings up, more we talk about this stuff. The South Alicio ended there at Lower Via Casitas at the apartments, and they had the gate there. And it was just, when I lived in Greenbrae, the whole back was all just fields, and the creek was running through there. There'd be jackrabbits and stuff. And today it's just a beautiful walking path that goes all the way down the ferry terminal.
At one time, I lived on Bon Air Hill when I was first married. Had my first two daughters, and my wife I would take the car to work. She had no transportation, but she could live on Bon Air. She would walk that path with my lunch and dinner and stuff like that. Walk over to the station, but it was, like you said, it was just kind of marshy land.
It was.
But they had a great master plan. Their master plan, if they put it together in the 50s, was excellent. It turned out okay, I think. Next slide, please. Now, in September of 1961, the station officially opened. Here you see the gentleman who is back to us is Neil Schultz Jr., along with the city, the mayor of the city, and probably his father on the other side, Neil Sr., raising the flag for the grand opening of the firehouse. And the firehouse lasted to 1990, and it was torn down. I was very fortunate, and Neil Schultz Jr., Senior, I'm sorry, the maker, monarch of the company, would invite me out to lunch maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and we'd go down to the Alto Y at the Buckaloo.
The Buckeye down there.
He would tell great stories. He came from the old country, came over here pounding nails and hammers and worked his way in the real estate industry and turned out to be what he did. And so I always felt privileged to have a gentleman like that invite me to lunch. And he was a good man. We talked a lot of history. And at that time, I wasn't thinking about recording history for the fire department. I was just loved to listen to his stories about coming over and what it was like as a young man in a new country and what he did, him and his family did for the citizens of Larkspur in the county. So it was very nice to know those people. They were always gentlemen, always gentlemen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you look forward to his era from where we were with the Greenbrae Volunteer Fire Department. I mean, he was a fellow that saw the foresight that, hey, we're going to need a fire station down here for protection, and donated the land to the city so they could build a fire protection into the community, and that was some forethought because, as we were saying all through the program today, there was nothing in Greenbrae, Bill. Nothing there.
And it's kind of funny. When it first started, most of Greenbrae was going in the Kenfield Fire Protection District area.
Right.
And I understand that they kind of got into a disagreements between the Schultz people and Chief McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
They were annexing the remaining of their projects into Larkspur.
Yeah, that's true. There's a story I heard when I was at Kenfield that Sir Francis Drake ran east-west through the community, through Greenbrae, and all the way out to San Anselmo and Fairfax. And I think the master plan was everything on the north side of Sir Francis Drake was county, all unincorporated, and that was true, as we mentioned before, all the way out to the brick kiln and the quarry. That was still all unincorporated county land, and everything on the south side of Sir Francis Drake was annexed to the city of Larkspur, just like it is today. Well, I understand the Schultzes started building their homes, their residences, single-family dwellings on La Cuesta and Bertana Way and Corte Morada. That was the very first homes built in the Greenbrae complex. And that went really well for 5 or 6 or 8 years. And as they started building higher in the hills, what they were doing, and the folks that know the terrain or are familiar with Greenbrae, there are some streets like Almanar Drive, North Almanar, Vista Grande that have splits in the road. With the eastbound direction of Almanar Drive is lower than the westbound direction of Almanar Drive, and there is a big landscape median in the center. But the lower Almanar from upper Almanar is probably 20 feet in elevation. And when the developer went through, they had hydrants on the plan showed on all the way down, if you will, from my example here, Almanar Drive. But when the buildings went in, there were only hydrants on one side. So the fire chief said, hey, how am I supposed to protect both sides of these streets? And developer only put hydrants on one side. And there was discussion that, well, chief, you looked at the plans 2 years ago when we were putting this in, and there was never any comments to put hydrants on, both sides of the street. And I guess there was some words back and forth, and the Schultz company, and his builder's name was, I can't think of it, decided to approach the city of Larkspur and see if they would consider annexing parts of Greenbrae that hadn't already been approved by the county. And that's today why we have this, if you will, menagerie of homes that, for anybody that doesn't know this story, it really doesn't make any sense. But it was emotional, it was political, it was practical, it was all of the above.
That was, yeah. But if we can see the next slide, please. There you go. Now that's in 1990. That station we were looking was torn down. As I was leaving, the beams were starting to lose their strength, I thought. So we hired an architect to look at it. And then after I retired, they decided to tear it down and build this beautiful, beautiful 2-story building. Everyone has their own bedroom. Captains have their rooms. The firemen have their rooms. Engineers have their rooms. It does have a pole, a brass pole. Whether it's used or not, I don't know. But the one thing about what we were just discussing, the closest home from that fire engine, if you had a good softball, you could throw it in the house. That house is in Kenfield. It's not in. Right. That is getting back to that was the crazy part of that whole developing of Greenbrae. How can we respond from downtown Larkspur to a house that's across the street, you know. And so, and I think to this day it's still the same. But thank goodness we have eradicated all property lines, city limit lines, district lines. I think we're first in. You guys are first into North Larkspur now, and vice versa, and vice versa. So once we did away with, in the fire service, did away with property lines, city limit lines, and so forth. That's the way it should have been from day one. But everybody wanted to hold on to power, and they were reluctant to give it up. And
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we've been doing that, Bill, for 20 years now. It's been over 20 years that we've done those boundary drops for fire protection.
I know Chief Bobby Mariani and I had a gentleman's agreement. First guy in goes. If he gets committed, and we'll send our engine to stand by, vice versa. So
yeah,
doing it. And same thing with the Greenbrae Boardwalk. We were told not to go to the Greenbrae Boardwalk politically. Don't go to the county. So all I would do is call the county dispatch and say, "Are you requesting mutual aid?" He'd say, "Yeah." And once he requested mutual aid, the guys from Wind City were still coming. Station 2 could get out there real quick.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, we've made those huge improvements in your agency, you know, Larkspur, and my agency, Kenfield Fire, because the boundaries were not determined by, you know, folks like you and I. They were determined at a higher level, and we were able to. Fortunately, you were able to work with Bob Mariani, and after you retired, we kept progressing as far as those boundary drops go, and there's the dispatch cards now, and I'm dating myself by saying cards, but the dispatch order now gives the Larkspur engine 16, right, was right behind you there in the image. That engine 16 goes first into where they can get faster, and then the Kenfield engine, Kenfield 17, goes down to North Larkspur, North Magnolia, and College Court, and all those homes that are quite a run for either the downtown Larkspur engine or the one out in Greenbrae.
Can we bring that last slide up again to show that station, the new station? I don't see it. Okay. Anyway, I want to just say that station is now manned by 3 on duty 24 hours 7, 1,500 gallon minute pumper, EMTs. So the area is served quite well now with professional firefighters providing service to them now. Consider that little squad, same size houses, same kind of people, but from that little squad to a 1,500 gallon minute engine with 3 people versus 1. We've come a long way.
Well, yeah. And we've come a long way since the Greenbrae Volunteer Fire Company, where we started our program out this afternoon, Bill. I mean, and that's why we enjoy doing this so much, as we discover these little tidbits and these articles in newspapers from the over 100 years ago, and we put together a story of, you know, how it evolved, and we enjoy the heck out of doing it, and hope our viewers do too.
I hope so too. Yeah. One little side note:
Yep.
that creek that ran behind the station on high tides, it was full. It was salt water. It was like 20 feet from the back of the station. And on a good hot summer day, we'd have the sleepers catch the phones, and we'd go swimming. Just go jump in. Think about it. You're on duty and you're swimming in Bay Area salt water. It was kind of, but we didn't do a lot. But it was kind of neat to be able to do it.
Let me ask you, Bill, did that station flood?
Yes, it did. I'm glad you brought that up, because on that big storm in what was the year, 83?
82, 83, yeah.
We had that tremendous storm. The big cloud just kind of hung over the county for 3 days. Station 2 at that time had about 2 feet of water in it. And there were mudslides all over. We were losing apartments and houses in Larkspur, and cars were thrown around on the hills like the little Tonka toys. And it was just amazing to come out of the operations center to see what was going on. But I remember Dick Cola was working the station while we were in command at the police station. and he didn't know what to do. And I says, I can't even get to you. You need to do whatever you can do for yourself, do. And they basically slept in the beds with 2 feet of water right underneath them for 3 days until the storm let out. And that main drain that I was talking about came off the South Alicio drainage system.
Right.
The creeks couldn't handle it, so it went any place it could go. 2 feet were in the station. So, but they survived. They got food, and they slept on the beds that were dry. But it was quite a shock to prove even the firehouse can get flooded. It's Fairfax.
It's vulnerable. Yeah. Now, did they, that probably happened after you left, but I'm not sure. I don't know if you know or not, but did they raise that, the new station, the one they built in 1990, did they raise that up on fill or?
I don't know. I would assume to be out of the flood zone, what we call a flood zone in Roxborough, you had to have a finished grade of 7 feet. If you had 7 feet of grade, you were basically
good.
Pay flood insurance. So, by being in the municipality, I'm sure the city. The way I look at the station, it looks like it's on the same plane that the old station was on, probably just a little better. And the one thing they built on the old station, when they poured the foundation for the engine room, they poured it with the design of settling in the back. So in the back, it would. I remember one day I was by myself. I had that engine, and if I'm sitting in the living room, the TV room, I could always see the front end of the engine. It was the squad. And one day I looked up and I couldn't see it. I had been out on a call, came back, had lunch by myself, and I thought somebody was kidding me that they was messing with me, moving the engine, the squad. So I get up, and what I had forgot to do was put it in gear. It was in neutral, and because the slant or the engine room was sloped to the back, she slowly went all the way back. The rest against the hose dryer. And I never told anybody that. I just got in gear. But when I remember looking up, I said, where'd the squad go? So,
yeah.
Now, because they knew that we were on fill, that eventually everything was going to settle, and they built it to settle.
Right.
In that station. But,
right.
We poured the foundation and got it all done right. And it was great. And we had some great sleepers come through that station.
You did.
We did. Tom Forrester, Matt Gustafson, Pat Williams out of Corte Madera, San Anselmo versus Corte Madera. So we had some great people come through that station. Almost all of them became firefighters. Volunteer sleepers.
And I work with a number of them too. I work with a number of your paid staff guys, and of course work with your sleepers. We run calls together, and always had a good group of folks down there.
I mean, to show you the progress, remember we used to have a grammar school up on South Alicio, on Alicio. It's now all homes, right?
Right. Right.
We're at the old school down.
Right.
To play with. I don't know if you were with us at that time or with the service.
Oh yeah. I fought a lot of fire on that hill, Bill.
Yeah, it's amazing, Paul, that we haven't, either one of us lost a couple houses during the drought. In the one that it's a little bit of a design for disaster in its own way, but we've been very fortunate.
Right.
Just a perfect storm hasn't approached us yet.
Right.
But we all know eventually. Yeah. So anyway, I've enjoyed this talk about the history of the Greenbrae area, and Bonaire Hill, and the hospital coming in, and the Bonaire Center, the Bonaire people that who did a wonderful job for the communities. You know?
Right. Right. And I crossed the new Bonaire Bridge last week too.
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, you know,
I crossed it last week. Walked across it. It's like 90% done. So, you know, I look at the old Bonaire Bridge that we crossed so many times and became unstable in that. And you know, next time you're over here in Marin, we're going to have to take a gander across that, because as you mentioned in your remarks today, before that bridge and the roadway to connect that to that bridge was there, Larkspur had to go all the way up to North Magnolia and around College Avenue and all the way down Sir Francis Drake. So I'm glad to see that bridge improved, vastly improved from what it was. It's a nice looking structure and a lot wider too.
Just a quick note: as we were projecting tearing down the original firehouse, Station 2, the thought came up that where else could we build a firehouse? We didn't want to rebuild where Station 2 was.
Okay.
Right after you come off the Bonnier Bridge on the hospital side of the creek, the lot to the left is in Larkspur. And that's the only piece of property that's in Larkspur. The rest goes into Kinfield. So, the thought was, well, what if we built a station there and then opened South Alicio around where it was originally supposed to go? We still had time. And, but, it wasn't going to work. Where Station 2 was served now East Sir Francis Drake, the ferry terminal, the apartments, the hotel. It would have been crazy to move the station to Bonnier Road.
Yeah, you made the right choice. That was the right choice, because when Station 2 was built, as we spoke, a while ago, the whole East Sir Francis Drake wasn't developed.
Yeah.
There was no hotel. There wasn't apartments out there. There wasn't Larkspur Landing shopping center out there. It was the quarry, the brickyard, and the sanitary district.
That was it. Yeah. A quick side note: that when they were building the ferry terminal,
yep,
it was a federal project.
Yes.
And it's the only time that Larkspur and the city of San Francisco had something in common. And the federal government said the local authorities have no jurisdiction in the design of this project. San Francisco had nothing to say about their ferry terminal termination at the ferry building, and Larkspur had no say in. So when you go to the Larkspur ferry terminal, you'll find the open building has sprinkler system, and the enclosed buildings with roofs have no sprinkler systems. That was the federal government for you. So we got to do the story of you.
That's an interesting tidbit there. We're gonna have to explore these too. Yeah. We're telling folks about the history of how these things happen. You come up with these little gems that we'd never think about before.
We had a lot of fun going up to the cemetery in San Quentin. We've all been there. The wooden placards and stuff. I got a story I'll tell you sometime about Doug and I almost getting arrested, going into prison when we were.
Oh, I could tell you a couple times that Jimmy Clark and I running up there with hose packs on our backs too.
Yeah, that has its own story. East Sir Francis Drake has a lot of good calls. You can look back from trench rescues to elevated, the truck coming out of dumping, the 10-wheeler dumping, not moorings, and hitting the bridge and going up. And a lot of stories on East Sir Francis Drake. So we ought to just discuss that someday.
Another part of Greenbrae.
San Quentin, San Quentin. Almost ended up in the warden's office. Doug Archer and I. Me and the deputy warden almost went to fist in the field. I was so upset at this guy. So that's another story.
Well, thanks, Bill. And this has been a fun piece we put together. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I know I did. And there again, I've said it once. I'll say it again. When we put these things together, and I do my research, and you do yours, we're discovering things and reporting out to Marin Fire History things that we didn't know before we started our research. And to me, that's half the fun of doing this with you.
I would encourage anyone in the fire service to work in Marin County. They have their stories and tales too about their fire department and their personnel that we should record for history. Just so.
Or reach out to us, reach out to me, and I can put you in the right direction.
Absolutely. So it's been great, Paul, meeting up with you today, and I hope the wizard back at the control room is doing fine. So I'll say goodbye and good luck and a happy new year.
Thanks, Bill. Happy New Year to you. We'll check in soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.